Have you ever wondered what Foot Ninja in VR would look like? Well, today we're going to find out because we are creating VR Foot Ninja from scratch in just under 35 minutes. Let's get started. We'll start with our base VR project, which is set up with the Meta XR all-in-one SDK, version 59. Now this is an update / a successor to the Oculus integration package, which is now deprecated, as you can see. And you'll find a link to the same project in the description below. Okay, so to create this game we'll need three things: a player with an OVR rig, an environment, and some gameplay elements. So to make things simpler, I created a zip file for you, link in the description, that contains prefabs, scripts, and assets that we'll be using. And of course, I'll have a text file with links to all the source material. Once we unzip the file and drag the package into the scene, we'll see that it opens the import window for us. Here we can see all the files that are included. Let's press import and wait till it finishes loading. Okay, that was fast. So let's go into assets, and here we can find prefabs, a scripts, and a sounds folder. Now we'll go into prefabs and find the dojo mockup. Let's drag it into the scene and make sure it's set to 00. Here we can see that there are some things we don't need. So let's open up the dojo mockup and select everything except the dojo mockup and delete it. Now we have this as our environment. Alright, let's edit a couple things. First of all, the lighting. Let's just rotate this to -180 so that it looks nicer. And we can put this at 30, like so. So now what we need to make sure of is that the surface of the floor in this dojo is at the 0 position on the y-axis. So let's create a new empty game object and reset its transform, and then now we can bring it up a bit above the ground, and while holding V we can snap it onto the surface of this mesh. Now all we need to do is just put this back to 00 on the X and Z axis, and this one at 0.3, which seems to be the height of this floor, and we can put the dojo game object as a child of this one. And now reset the game object, the empty game object, to 0, which will make the surface of the dojo floor correspond with the 0 position on the y-axis. Now we can bring it back out and delete the game object. There we go. Now the scene looks a bit dull still, so what we can do to change the lighting and liven it up a bit is go into Window, Rendering, Lighting, and here we can go into the Environment tab and change the environment lighting from source being skybox to color, and bring it up more towards the light color and to the reddish orange. And there you go, you can see it already looks a lot better. And we can just close it to save. Now let's add an OVR rig and a skybox. So let's start searching for OVR rig full synthetic. And this is the one we need. Now if you didn't find it, maybe it's because you have it set on assets, the filter, so put it on all and you'll be able to find it because it's in packages. So this one, we'll just drag it into the hierarchy, and now we'll look for skybox, and included in the package that I provide was this skybox, so we're just gonna drag it like so. Awesome. And let's make sure to also remove and delete the main camera, because now we have a camera that is part of the interaction rig. There we go. Let's test it. Okay, so let's try it out. Put the headset on, and yeah, I can see that I'm in the dojo. I have the skybox and I can see my hand tracking hands. Now I am facing the wrong direction, so we will fix that, maybe by rotating the whole dojo. Okay, so it should be an easy fix. Let's go to the interaction rig OVR and rotate that by 180 degrees. Now we didn't rotate the dojo itself because otherwise we need to rotate it and rotate the directional light. This will do for now. So let's press play and try it out. There we go. Yes. Now I'm a bit offset because I just need to recenter like so. And now I'm looking right in front of me and there's 2 bonsai trees. Great. Okay, now before we continue to create the gameplay, we need to add 2 more components to our controller hands and our hand tracking hands. To do that, we need to open the interaction rig OVR, head to OVR interaction, and then open up the OVR controller hands and the OVR hands. Now in here you'll find the left controller hand and the right controller hand, and inside of them you'll see controller hand interactors. This is where we'll be adding the interactors for both controller hands. The same thing goes for the hand tracking hands. Right here you'll find hand interactors left and hand interactors right. Now I'll close them for now. We'll focus on the controller hands first, and we'll need to look for hand grab interactor, like so. And make sure you're searching in all, because they are in the packages and not in the assets. And then we'll grab this prefab right here, hand grab interactor, and place it into the controller hand interactors, both for the left hand and the right hand. And now we will do the same, but for the hand tracking hand. So same thing here, hand interactors left, just drag the hand grab interactor into it. And the same for the right one, like so. Now we'll need to add the distance hand grab interactor. So let's search for distance hand grab interactor. And there we go. This is the prefab. The same as we did for the other ones, we'll just drag and drop it into the interactor game objects. Like so, and here. Great, we're set up. And now starts the fun part. So let's close down the interaction rig OVR, like so, and go into prefabs. Here you'll find the Hyper Katana model, which is the asset that I downloaded, and let's drag it into the scene. Now you'll see that it added lighting and also a camera. So let's select both of those and delete them. These came with the asset when they were downloaded. Let's go into the plane object inside of the Hyper Katana model, and let's reset the rotation to 0 on the Y and 0 on the Z. Now you'll see the sword is facing the wrong way. So let's go back to the Hyper Katana, and now let's rotate it -90 degrees on the Y axis. There we go. This looks way better. Now we want to make our sword grabbable. So let's make it so that we have a cube that looks like the handle, so that we can place it where the handle is and add all the grabbable components to it. So let's right click and start a cube. Let's reset the transform to 0, 0. And now we can scale it a bit so that it looks like the handle of the sword right here. So let's put it to 0.025 on the X axis and on the Z axis, so we can copy paste that. And then 0.2 on the Y axis. Now it's down here, so let's bring it up and let's place it where the sword is. So to do that, we can grab it and put it into the saber, and now we can reset the position right here. So let's put that to 0, 0. There we go. And we can bring it up just to where the sword handle is. Now you can see you can adjust it to so that it fits perfectly, like so. Something like that should be great. Now let's remove the mesh renderer from the cube, and let's rename it to handle. And let's also rename the saber to katana, since it's more fitting. Now we're going to add the grabbable component to the handle so that we can move the sword around by grabbing it. So let's do that. First of all, what we need is a rigid body. And let's add some drag to it, 10 and 10 on the angular drag as well, just so that later on when we add so that it can hit the fruits, it doesn't start moving when the fruits hit it. And then let's change it from use gravity to not use gravity. So untick that. Let's add a grabbable script. There we go, the grabbable component. And then we need one grab free transform and a 2 grab free transform, like so. Now with a 2 grab free transform, what it does usually is when you grab with 2 hands, you can scale it, but we don't want to be able to scale it. We just want to be able to hold it and rotate it like so. So we are going to use the constraints are relative. For some reason in this version, it seems that the constraints are relative isn't working. So normally what you would do is turn on the constraints and then put it to 1, 1 if you want it to stay the same size as it is. That way it's relative to this scale that it starts with, so you put 1, 1. But in this case, it's not working how it's supposed to. So we're going to scale it based on the y-axis and have it so that it's on 0.2. So it stays on 0.2 like it is here. So let's do 0.2 and 0.2 here. maximum and minimum. And now we should add these two components into these references in the Grabbable script. So let's take those and add them here. And now let's create a new child empty game object into this handle, and let's call it the hand grab interactable. And this is where we're going to put that component. So let's look for hand grab interactable, and that's the one. So choose that, and here you'll see that the rigid body got assigned by default. Sometimes you need to assign it yourself if you added it in the wrong order. But now we can try it out and see if we can grab the sword with two hands. So let's do that. So we're in the room. The sword is a bit behind us because we haven't moved it forward, but we can grab it and grab it with both hands. And you can see that it's rotating based on the two hand positions. And we cannot scale it because we added the constraints. So this is what it looks like, and we can swing it around. With our current setup, we can grab it with both hands, but our hands don't go into specific places. So you can grab it from either side and from upside down and so on, and sometimes it doesn't look good. So what if we want to add it so that when we grab it, it goes into a specific pose? We can do that very simply, and let's look at that. So let's open up Oculus at the top bar right here, open up interaction, and then open the hand grab pose recorder. Now you'll see this menu right here, and we'll have a couple things we need to fill out. First of all, let's choose what hand we want to use to record. We'll use the right hand, and we need to choose which object this pose is attached to. So we'll give it the handle because that's where our rigid body is. And finally, all we need to do is to press play and press space when we have our hand in the specific pose we want. Now, to make it easier for us to take these poses, we are going to remove the hand grabbable, remove that one so that it doesn't grab and snaps into place. Instead, we're going to have it just in place in front of us so that we can place our hand in the right place. And now we can also move this forward just so that we can reach it easier. There we go. Something like that should be fine. And now I'm moving the katana, not the handle. And we can press play and check it out. So let's press play. Now we're in. We can put our hand where the sword is and just pose it how you wish. And now we can press space with the other hand. There we go. And now I want to be able to grab it by the other side. So I'll put my hand like that and press play. There we go. Space, I mean. And now we can close the we can press save here on the where it says save collection, and we'll stop the play mode. Now the poses were saved. All we need to do now is to load from collection. So let's press load, and you'll see that the hand grab interactable game object got added 2 times. One for the pose where we were holding the sword upright, and one when we were holding the sword from upside down so that we can slash. And here we can now make sure that the rigid body is assigned, which it should be, and then we can press on create mirrored hand grab interactable so that we have a version of this but for the left hand. So there you go. Now you can grab it with both left and right hand into these specific poses. You need to have 4 hand grab interactables, 2 of them being mirrored. Now if we try that again, we can see, and here we have our sword, and now I can grab it and it snaps into place like that. Very nice. Even if I try to grab it here, it will snap into place, you'll see. And if I do the opposite with this hand, the same thing. Now the pose wasn't perfect, but we can edit that and make it so that it snaps into the right place. Just play around with it and figure out which pose looks best for you. There we go. In my case, on the upside down hand grab pose, I just had to move it by 0.5 on the x-axis and minus 0.3 on the z-axis. Same for the mirrored one, but in reverse. Now you can either re-record the poses or just move them around if they're already good. And now we can add another interactable here, which is the distance grab interactable so that we can grab them from afar. So to do that, we can shift click on the last one so that we select all four. And now we can add the component distance hand grab interactable. And let's not forget to add the pointable element on all four hand grab interactables as well. So let's drag the handle and place it there. Make sure it's on all four of them. And final thing we need to do is just to decide what we want the supported grab types to be. In this case we can pinch it, but maybe we don't want to pinch the sword to grab it. So let's just have it so that it's in the palm. So when we close our palm, it will be grabbed. So in here we'll put it to none, and then we'll put it to just palm, like that. We can edit what counts as being grabbed. In this case you need the index, you need the middle finger and the ring, and the others are optional like the thumb and the max, which is the pinky. In this case, maybe I want to put so that the index as well is optional, so that when you're playing with a controller, you don't need to have both the trigger and the grab buttons pressed. You just need the grab button pressed. And that's it. Now we should be able to grab it from far away and grab it with just our hands instead of also being able to pinch it. Now that we have a movable sword, all we need to do is to add a way so that we can detect when it's slicing the fruit. To do that, we need to add a collider on it, and we'll need to add a script, as well as a sound source so that we can play a sound when we slash the fruits. So let's start first by adding an empty object as a child of the handle. So let's create an empty object and let's call it blade. And now we will add a box collider, which we will modify the size of so that it goes up the length of the blade, and we can widen it out a bit like so, and bring it up from the bottom so that it doesn't take the handle as well, like that. Now you'll be able to see that this blade is not the same collider as the handle collider. So the handle collider is still here, but now you can see that the blade has a collider as well. Now maybe we want to also make it so that it's a bit larger to the back, like so. And we could also rotate it on the Z axis, I believe. No, the X axis, so that it's following the curve of the blade. Something like that should do. We can bring it a bit closer to us, like so. Now you see, this will be what detects when we slash the fruits. I'm gonna make it just a tiny bit higher so that we give the player some leniency. Okay, now what we need to add still is a rigid body to detect collision, and we will remove the gravity from it. We can make it kinematic as well. Let's now add an audio source, like so. And we don't need to add a clip into it yet, because we are going to use another component called an audio trigger, which gives us a bit more dexterity with what we can do. In this case, we are going to add the reference for the audio source right here, and we'll add a clip. Now we can go to the assets and then into the sounds, and we'll drag the samurai slash sound into here. Now you can see here that we have some options. We have volume and volume randomization, as well as pitch and pitch randomization. Now for us, what we want is to have the volume a bit lower, because the volume of this slash is a bit too loud. So let's put it at 0.3, for example. And let's go into the pitch. Here you can play around with pitch randomization. I like to put it at 0.5 to 1.5. So each slash would sound a bit different. And keep it on spatialize. Now the same here for the audio source. You can play around with if you want it to be spatial or not. In this case, for the sword, I'm gonna put it to spatial, and this should be it. Now we can close that down, and we can add the script that will be detecting when we hit the fruits. So if we go to the scripts folder, these are the 3 scripts that come with the package, and you can see one is called saber hit behavior, so that's the one we want. Let's put it here, and what it does, if we open it up, you can see all it does is it gets the audio trigger. This is a audio trigger variable, and then we're getting the component audio trigger from the game object. And when it's comparing tag with fruit, so we're detecting if on collision enter, if it collides with a game object that has the tag fruit and plays the audio. That's all it does. Now we can close that, and we can make sure that in here we have the tag fruit. It should be there because when we imported the package, it should add it because the fruits have that as a tag. If not, then you can add it right here. Let us now add some audio on our katana, like a humming sound and also a grab and release sound. So to do that, let's create a new game object, call it audio, and put it as a child of the handle, and then reset the transform. Now we will drag in from asset sounds, we'll drag in the saber humming audio source right here, the audio clip, and we will put it on loop. Decrease the volume to 0.7, increase the pitch to 1.1. Now you can play around with this and edit it however you like. These are just some settings that I enjoy. And then spatial blend, we'll put it up to 3D and increase the Doppler level up to 5. Now here you can play around with the sound. What I did is I went into custom roll-off. I just added some new levels for the roll-off and did like so, something like that, and that's it. Now when we unselect the audio, you can see that there's two audio sources right here. The other one is the one we put on the blade, but I noticed here that it's not exactly on the blade, so let's fix that. We go into the box collider and we can see that we can move it down on the y-axis. So move it down until the audio source is somewhere in the middle, somewhere like this, and then we can move the whole blade up like so. Move it up and to the front on the z-axis. There we go. This is much better. Now back to the audio. Here we close down the audio source here, and we want a Unity pointable event wrapper. So look for pointable Unity event wrapper and add that script. This is what's going to let us activate the sound for when we grab it and when we release it. Here you can see that it needs a reference for the handle, so let's bring it here. And we want to add a when select and when unselect. Now we need the objects that will play the sound, so let's search for basic grab, and you'll see here basic grab pickup and basic grab release, and these are audios. So let's grab both of these and drag them onto the audio game object. Now here you'll see they have an audio source and they have a audio trigger just like the other one we made. So here we don't need to edit anything. All we need to do is now go back to the audio and close this audio source right here. When select, and let's grab the pickup audio game object, and the same for the release game object, put it on the unselect. And here we need to go into audio trigger and play audio, and that's it. Now we are officially done with the katana sword. We can move on to the fruits and the fruit launchers, and then we're done. Awesome. Now we're done with our sword. What we can do is duplicate it so that we have two of them, and then we'll move on to having the fruit launchers that launch the fruit that we will cut. And we can also add some background music. So let's do that. Okay, so let's create a prefab from the katana. Let's go into the prefabs folder and just drag the katana from here into this folder right here. And now we can just Control D on the katana and move it to the left. There we go. Now we have a prefab of the katana and we have two of them in front of us, like so. And let's add the music for the background. So to do that, we head back to the sounds folder, and in here we can find a slow version 2021. That's the one. Shamisen dance, that's what it's called. So let's get that one and let's place it into the scene. Now in here we want it to loop, and we can change the settings so that it's a bit lower volume, I guess. Somewhere around 0.7. This should be great. And we don't want it to spatial blend because we want to hear it all around us. And let's add the music for the background. So let's go into the assets, into sounds, and this one right here. It's called Shamisen Dance. So let's get that one and drag it into the scene. Here we want to open up the audio source if it's closed down, and let's put the volume to 0.3 because this one is pretty loud. There we go, this is great. Now we have music and we have two swords. And finally we can add the fruit spawners. So let's go into Prefabs, and here we find the fruit spawner prefab. Drag it into the scene and let's move it to -1.5 on the Z-axis, and let's turn it to 25 on the Y and 20 on the Z. Now you can see the green arrow, which is the Y-axis, the local Y-axis, is determining what direction it will be launched at. And now all we need to do is to duplicate this one and move it to the other side, so -1.5 on X. And here we can do -25 and -20. And you'll see that now they're both launching towards the middle. So now that that's done, I'll show you a bit what the fruit spawner does. So it has a spawn interval, that's 2 seconds, and it has all the prefabs for the fruits, which are available here. So you don't need to access these. And then here you can determine the shot strength. So the strength at which the fruits will be launched. In this case, we want to put one of these spawners to be 3 spawn intervals. So every 3 seconds it will spawn a random fruit. And let's add one more spawner. Click on the fruit spawner and duplicate again. And here we can put it to -90 and -30 on the Z-axis rotation. And we need to move it into the middle, so put it back to 0 on position X, and let's move it back to -3.5. There we go. Now let's move all of this dojo back a bit, something like that. So we're starting here and we see the fruits coming from a bit in front of us. So this is where we'll be standing, right here. We can move a bit our character back, like so. This should be fine. 0.075. If we check the fruit spawner script, we will see that it has a spawn interval, which is the time that it waits before it shoots. This is only for the first time because I'll show you in the code soon that we're randomizing it every time it shoots. But for the first time around, it's 2 seconds here. And we can actually change it so that this one starts at 5 for the first time, and this one starts at 3, let's say. There. And then you have a list of prefabs that it chooses between. These are all the fruits that it can choose between when launching. So it will pick by random and instantiate the prefab and launch it at this speed right here that is determined right here. So this one, since it's a bit further away, we'll change it to 6.5. And if we look in the code, we can see that in the update we're waiting for the interval to be reached, and when it is, it spawns a fruit, and it also gets a new interval that's a random range between 2 and 10. So that's the amount of time that it can be before it spawns a new fruit. And we can also see that the spawn fruit function calls that the sound is played and shoots the fruit right here. And that's it for the fruit spawner. Since the fruit prefabs are part of the package that I provided, we are basically done now. But we can take a look at the fruits just to understand how they are set up, if we want to create one from scratch. So let's go into it. We can see that it has a mesh filter and a mesh renderer. This is the model of the apple. And we have a sphere collider on it to determine when it hits the floor or the blade. And we can see we have a particle effect as well. Now, this particle effect you can edit yourself, and we have a rigid body so that it has physics, and the fruit/behavior script. If we take a look at it, all it has is a way for it to determine if it collides with anything, then it splashes. So we have the audio playing, you have the particle system playing, and you have the mesh renderer of the apple itself being disabled. The same for all the other fruits. And if we take a look, there's another particle effect in there, because as you see, when I restart it, there's two. There's the puff, and then also there's the small bits of the apple that are falling down. and these ones have gravity. And finally we have the sound, which is just it's called a tomato squish sound, so just to add a nice sound for the fruits to splash. And now we can build it and test it on our headsets. Okay, let's build the project. Let's press on File, Build Settings, and here we need to switch to Android. This will take a while, so I'll skip to the next part. Let's do a couple more final changes before we start building. So here we need to add our scene. If you already have a scene that's not relevant, you can right click on it and remove it. Now open the scene that you want to build and press Add Open Scenes. And now we want to go into the player settings where we can find the company name and the product name. In this case, I have Immersive Insiders as my company name, and product name is VR Fruit Ninja. This is the name of the application that will appear in your headset. Now after that's done, I will keep that at 0.1 version. If you want to have a splash screen when the application opens, you can add one here. For now, I will not add that. So let's close that down. And if you have your headset connected to the PC, which you should have when you were building, it should be visible here. If it's not, then connect it and refresh. Now before we build, let's close this for a bit and let's hop into the interaction OVR rig and hop into the OVR camera rig. In here, we need to check the Quest 3 if we are using Quest 3. And if we go below, we need to check that the hand tracking support is for controllers and hands. If you want only hands, then you can choose hands only, and vice versa for controllers. So now that we have that out of the way, we can also do a final change in the tracking spaces on the center eye anchor and make it so that the clipping planes is 0.001, so that when you grab objects and bring them near to your face, they won't start clipping far away from your face. They need to be very close until they start clipping. If that's a preference that you don't like, then you can skip this part. If we want some cleaner looking shadows, what we can do is go into Edit, Project Settings, and go into Quality. And in here you'll see that Android is on medium by default, so bring it down to Ultra. And we will also click on Ultra and scroll down, and here you'll see the shadow distance. Set it to something like 16. This should be fine. Now you can see that if you set it to lower, then you won't see the shadows that are closer to you. So 16 is perfect. And also, if you go to the directional light, you can make it so that the bias, instead of being 0.01, put it to 0. There we go. This looks a lot better. Now we go into File, Build Settings, Build and Run. And let's create a folder in here called Builds. So we create a new folder and call it Builds, and then open it and name your file whatever you want, the APK file. In my case, it's VR Fruit Ninja. And now we will start building. Save, and this will take a while. So I'll see you in a bit. Great, it's done building. So let's try it out. Okay, so we're going into the app library, and under unknown sources we should be able to find VR Fruit Ninja now. So let's click on that and we'll see the Unity splash screen. So here are our swords. I can grab them from afar and slash the fruits. Awesome. So let's grab them other way around. Nice. And let's switch to hand tracking. I missed that one. Oh, 2 cherries. And here we go, we have Fruit Ninja in VR. Awesome.
And there you have it, guys. We have created VR Fruit Ninja from scratch in just under 35 minutes. Good job. Now, of course, this isn't a full game. We don't have a win or lose state, and we're not keeping track of score. But these are things that can be easily added upon the space project.
Please let us know in the comments below what features you would love to implement into this project. I, for instance, would love to see obstacles that I need to avoid. In any case, if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, a like and subscribe will be much appreciated. If you want to check another video, check this one right here. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.